Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Scabera. I'm the Senior Director of Club Services at the Florida State Golf Association. I am honored and privileged to be joined by these four fine gentlemen today. Will and Tad and Jim and Mike have been an absolute tremendous resource for myself and the Florida State Golf Association as we launched our Hickory Golf program. As you may or may not know, the FSGA didn't have a Hickory Golf program in January of 2020. We were prompted by our current president, Kevin Hammer, to look into Hickory Golf. And like most things these days, I started with a simple Google search and found a gentleman by the name of Mike Stevens right here in our backyard in Tampa. Mike is the current captain of the Florida Hickory Golfers and also a teaching professional at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. Mike and I traded a few emails and learned that he was having an event at Temple Terrace, a Hickory event at Temple Terrace, again, right in our backyard. So myself and several other staff members stopped by to see Mike, and immediately we became very comfortable and very intrigued. We actually knew a number of the golfers that were playing Hickories that day. It was a fantastic event. A couple of bagpipers coming down the first fairway led off the day's activity. There was a starter in traditional 1930s gear, and just the passion and the camaraderie was very evident that day. And made our decision to pursue Hickory Golf just that much easier. A week later, Mike and another gentleman, Tom McCrary, local PGA pro, also involved in Hickories, came by our Tampa office, and we met for an hour and a half, kind of laying out what we thought the Hickory program should be. We agreed we wanted to partner with each other, get some Hickory events on the calendar, and we're committed to running a state Hickory Open in 2021. In conjunction with the Hickory Golfers. So we're very excited about that. Anytime I had a question for Mike, it was a quick and thorough answer. He introduced Jim and Will and Tad, the other gentlemen on this call. And I've got to say that you guys have been absolutely fantastic, tremendous resource, like I said, for myself and for the FSGA. Excited to help grow Hickory Golf in Florida and get some exposure. I'm going to turn it over to Mike. If Mike, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and talk a little bit about your involvement in Hickory Golf and the Florida Hickory Golfers, and then we'll move on from there.
My name is Mike Stevens. I am the director of the Florida Hickory Golfers. We've been in business now, or organized, probably, I'd say 5-6 years. We started it out, myself and a friend of mine named Cody Kirchhoff, who used to live in Omaha, Nebraska. And in Omaha, there's a big contingent of Hickory players. But when Cody moved to Florida, he contacted me and asked me about getting together to play some Hickory golf, just the two of us. While we were doing that, we came up with the idea of trying to start an organized group here in Florida. And we held our first event at River Hills Country Club in Valrico. And we invited friends of ours to come and play with our Hickory clubs. I think that first event we had, I want to say 10 or 11 people that showed up. And from there, we just started playing on a regular basis. We tried to do some events once a month at different locations. We tried to hit some of the historical courses that are in the area. There's over 50 courses that are listed on the Florida Historic Golf Trail. Courses that date back into the 20s and things like that. And we've built up a pretty good following. We have something like 60 to 70 people in our email list that we invite to play regularly. And, we generally will get anywhere from 24 to 32 players out every time we do an event each month at one of our historical locations. The last one we did was at Temple Terrace, as part of the National Hickory Championship, which was a 1890 event where we actually used gutta-percha balls. So it's been very rewarding. It's a lot of fun, and we're really excited now about our relationship with you all at the Florida State Golf Association, and hoping to expand Hickory golf in the state and get more people interested in the history of the game and what it's all about.
And with that, I'll turn it over to my buddy Will down there in the corner. Talk to us about what you're doing for Hickory Golf and how you got involved in this little niche market that's expanding and growing.
Well, it's kind of interesting. You have right there three guys that really have a lot more knowledge of Hickory than I do. Mike being the great leader of the Hickory Association down there in Florida, which I'm also a member of, and Tad, who's a great historian of looking at the clubs that were popular and doing reproducing them in today's quality. And Jim, as Mike said, does a great job with the publicity for the society. You know, all I've done is I'm a bag man. You know, it's what I've done most of my life is manufacture golf bags, and I got involved because of a friend of mine, Mike Just, who had been the owner of Global Golf. But Mike and I went back when I made golf bags for he and his brothers years ago, and he kept pestering me that Hickory golfers needed a traditional bag, and a lot of modern golfers want something that was more traditional, that they were tired of Titleist and Nike and, you know, all the names branded on the side of a bag. And I had retired in 1999 to kind of enjoy life at my house in Florida on the water and play golf and go fishing. Those were my two goals in life. And unfortunately, my kids decided to get married and have grandkids. And my wife said, I want to spend some more time in Kentucky. And I'm like, what am I going to do in Kentucky? And Mike, I came up and I started playing some golf, and Mike kept pestering me every time he'd regrip clubs saying, we need a good golf bag. You know how to make a golf bag. I said, Mike, I'm the happiest guy on earth. And finally I gave in, and with the encouragement of talking with Tad as well, you know, I asked their opinions of bags, and what I thought I had an easier job than what Tad really did, trying to find what were the clubs that really worked and replicating and making them better, both woods and irons. My job, I liked, is what I had always done. I looked at what would be good for a golf bag, and put my brain kind of in a 1900 brain cell to find out, you know, what did the bags look like in the 1890s, 1900s, and what could we do to come up with a bag that's very traditional but has a lot of quality. And I looked at the materials of the bags and the size of the bags, and listening, you know, some advice from both Tad and Mike, and we came up with our bag. And I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And my gosh, all of a sudden, you know, we had it on the website through a few people, and all of a sudden we sold 100 bags. And I'm like, oh, this might work. So that's basically how my start came with Hickory, was trying to be a supplier to guys who would like to have a traditional looking golf bag of the era, which our clubs are. And I'm very excited about being in it now for almost 9 years, because there's not a better group of guys and that are out there. It's a camaraderie, especially when you're going out to look at playing with tradition. And that's the fun part about golf. I mean, anybody can go out and play the game, but it's playing it with tradition. And whether it's putting your plus fours on and your flat cap with your wooden shafted clubs, or just going out in a pair of Bermudas with your wooden shafted clubs, it's really it's a great game, and that's how I got into it and stayed involved with it. And you can't find a better bunch of guys to be around. And I'm excited when Mike called me and informed me about the association. I was pretty excited because everybody in Florida is a good bunch of folks, because they're there to have a good time. And the addition of the Florida State Golf Association, I think it's going to be nothing but positive, because there's a ton of great old traditional courses they're in Florida. And that's the other thing that I like about Hickory is we usually, all our get-togethers are with courses that have history. And that makes it a lot of fun too.
That's fantastic. We've seen your golf bags and Tad's Hickory clubs, and they are wonderful. Jim, tell me for a minute about how you got involved with the Society of Hickory Golfers. I know that you spent some time in Tampa. You're a fellow USF Bull, as am I. I was class of '98. I imagine you were just a couple years before that, but.
Oh gosh, I got started back around early 2000s. I had joined the Chivas Iron Society, right? And was working with those guys for a while, going to some of their events. I was a newspaper editor in Grand Rapids, where I live. And then I fell in with a couple of scoundrels. One of them was called Ralph Livingston III. The other was Roger Hill. The two were partners in photography at the time, as well as Hickory Golf. And those two were one of the early guiding lights in Hickory Golf. Not the only ones, but Ralph certainly, his light shone very bright. He was an enthusiast for all things Hickory Golf. So he got an event together, got some Chivas Irons guys together, had a little course near Grand Rapids, and we played there and just had a ball.
Yeah,
I was hooked. Ralph got me into looking at clubs more, helped outfit me with my first set of clubs. Bought a lot of them from an early purveyor who was coming over from Great Britain. John Sherwood will be a name familiar to many people. And John would bring just loads of clubs with him. And Ralph helped me pick a few of those out. Started playing more and more. And then got involved with the Society of Hickory Golfers. Roger Hill came to me and said, Jim, we've been playing together now for a while. We'd like to cook up a newsletter. Could you do that? So I started up something called A Wee Nip, which Tad Moore named. That name came from Tad, and it stuck. And the Wee Nip was published for like some 14 years as a biannual magazine for the Society of Hickory Golfers. And that was something I did and got published every year. That little magazine now goes twice a year into the magazine called The Golf, which is a quarterly of the Golf Heritage Society. Okay. A collaboration between the two groups. A long time ago, the two societies were more closely aligned. But the golfers went their way, the collectors went their way, and that's how they're doing things today. Oh gosh, I have been privileged to play with guys like Tad and Mike and Randy Jensen. They've taught me so much. It's just unbelievable. And I learned so much from these guys. It is not the least of which is how compassionate they can be. Working with a guy who has somewhat of a spasmodic game. I mean, you know how it goes as a teacher.
Yes, sure do.
Well, thank you for your patience, I would say. But it was great fun. All gentlemen, we had a great time. And every step of the way, learning more and more about Hickory Golf, what it is, what this community is like. It's just been a genuine joy. So it's been fun working with these guys and collecting clubs and playing here and there. And nowadays, I am still getting out with Roger Hill quite a lot. He is the commissioner of what we are pleased to call the Michigan Hickory Tour.
Okay.
And occasionally we've made some little noises and touched base with our own Michigan Golf Association. And based on what you all can put together there in Florida, we might be able to cook something up here too. So we're hopeful, and we have Hickory Golf events just about every month of the season. And that's where I am today. And it's just been a lot of fun. I can't tell you how much fun it is to be in this community of Hickory golfers. They're just great gentlemen, all of them.
Yeah. Well, I in reading your bio on the Society of Hickory Golfers website and some of the emails that you and I traded back and forth, I can tell that you are a fun guy to be around. So your sense of humor and your passion comes through for it. I will say to any other golf associations that are looking to put together a Hickory golf program, I think I said it in the intro, these four gentlemen right here make the job very easy. I encourage you to give me a call or reach out to them directly because I think that this thing can grow pretty rapidly, and it's gentlemen like you that really can help us grow this. So again, any other golf associations that are interested in a Hickory golf program, let's chat, let's get together, and let's see what we can do for this game on a national level as well. Tad, want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for putting this all together. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I got involved, of course, with golf. I've been involved with golf since 1963, so a long time. And I spent years on the tour working with some of the finest professionals in golf when I was involved with Maxwell and Dunlop around the world. And I accumulated about 3,500 clubs. And in doing so, a good bit of them were Hickory clubs. And about 1984, a good friend of mine suggested that I try playing with Hickory golf clubs. And that gentleman was Bobby Farino, who was up in Williamsburg, had a pretty extensive collection and was a dealer in classic clubs as well as had a shop where he repaired and did everything. So Bobby encouraged me to give it a go, and my first tournament was in 1991 in Palm Springs, and I would say that there were probably at that time around 20 avid Hickory players in the United States, and we met at the Golf Collectors Society meeting there and played, and I enjoyed it and had a great time and meeting the people, and I just started going from there. So during the 90s, I traveled a good bit with Roger Hill, that Jim Davis mentioned, and other people to Scotland, and we would try to find clubs and improve our play sets. And at one time there, sitting in a pub in St. Andrews, the guy suggested to me that since I could make golf clubs for tour players, that why couldn't I make a good Hickory club? So sounds easy, but it isn't. And the one thing is that I had to find a way to make the shafts. So when I came back home, I called Odie Chrisman, who lived here in Selma, Alabama. And I said, can you make a golf iron shaft? He said, I don't know. I've never made one. So we got together and we made some. And little by little, we progressed. And by 2003, we actually made some irons. And we introduced them to the people a little shortly after that time and started making sets of the irons, the OA model irons. And then right after that, I had some requests for doing woods. And so I thought, well, that makes sense. Do the irons and woods and niblicks and everything. And so I went to a friend of mine up in Kentucky, and he had just barrels of Turnings Masters and old-time Masters. And I got with him, and we sorted through some Masters and picked them out and got them ready to be used. And I took them from there to Mike Just. And Mike turned me some heads, and we introduced him to the marketplace and had great success with it. So we immediately then had a full range of products, which included putters, niblicks, wedges, irons, and wood. So we got into the business of producing the finest clubs. And I utilized and bought the Odie Chrisman equipment. And Odie has worked with me now ever since. And we honestly believe that we make and manufacture the best Hickory shafts in the world. We sell our shafts all over the world. We sell them to Japan, Sweden, Scotland, Australia, you name it, here in the United States. I mean, we feel we do make the very best. And of course, that's the engine of the golf club. So we make them everywhere, from women's flexes all the way up to long drive guys. So we worked with everybody like that. In fact, we've worked great with Sandy Lyle and Ian Woosnam and the young, real good player from over there now with the long hair in England. And we've just worked with everybody, all types of players, and it lets us be able to make really great clubs for people. So we're excited to be able to offer clubs to your membership and to assist them in putting together the best place that they could ever have. So combine that with Will's bags and head covers and everything else that's there that everybody in this group provides, I think it'll be a great success. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Again, appreciate everyone being a part of this. For me, some of the most, or the great thing about Hickory Golf and the environment are the optics of it. You've got the traditional dress, you've got the Hickory shafted woods and irons, you've got the golf club carriers, as Will refers to them. But everyone I've talked to about Hickory Golf, regardless of age, from our board members, from our staff members, to people that I just talked to on the street, telling them that we put this product together or this project together. The first thing they want to know, and I'm going to put on my paperboy hat because it has to deal with: do you have to dress the part if you're going to play Hickory Golf? And the follow-up would be: is this like a fine restaurant where if I show up without a jacket, are they going to not let me eat my dinner? If I show up at a Hickory event without traditional gear on, am I not going to be able to play golf? And then lastly, do you play better if you dress the part? And I'll let Mike go ahead and start the round table on that one.
Well, here in Florida, we don't adhere to a strict dress code. It's too hot.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So, especially in the summertime. But, a lot of the guys enjoy wearing knickers at least, but we'll have knickers on with a regular golf shirt, short sleeve shirt. Most guys like to wear the hats.
Yeah.
That's sort of fun. Whether you play better or not, I doubt it. I mean, I don't think, but it is fun to see people on the course dressed in the old style. And people just walking down the street or something will stop and say, "That's so cool. What are those guys doing?" So it is fun to dress up, especially if you're playing in a big tournament. But I like our normal monthly things, we don't really require, if it's too hot, you can wear shorts. We allow riding in carts. I mean, like today, what is it, 95 down here today? So,
at least.
So it's, but again, we don't require it, but it is fun to see everybody dressed up and playing. When I watched guys in the 50s and like Hogan and those guys and Snead, when they wore, shirt and tie, I thought that was so cool to see them dressed like that. And it was kind of gave the whole experience a sort of an elegance, to the game. And it's just fun. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, no, I agree. When we came to your event at Temple Terrace and we saw Dylan Malafronte, who we knew worked in Tampa, he drove down from Georgia for that event. And Dylan's younger, maybe late 20s, early 30s, but here comes Dylan, dressed in long pants and a long sleeve shirt with his tie tucked in. And it was just neat to see someone from a little bit younger still embrace the culture of it.
One other thing, hey, just for a second. Couple of years, maybe 3 years ago, we were fortunate enough to get a spot at the demo day at the PGA show on the Orange County National. And we must have I'll bet we had about close to 300 pros hit balls. Yeah. The younger guys thought it was so great. Most all of them said, "Why don't we play golf like this anymore?"
Right.
So the young guys really embrace it as much as anybody.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, that's true, Mike.
Yeah, you were there, Mike. Tad, weren't you?
Yeah. And that was exciting because, I'd ask them, "Have you ever seen a club like this?" No. You know, had he ever hit a wooden head? No. Well, obviously, then they probably never hit a hickory club. And I want to say we were closer to 500 people. I mean, there was not a quiet moment all day at demo day in that little spot we had. And I can't remember who it was, but one of the tour pros, hit some balls too. So it was pretty neat, you know. I mean,
that was DeMarco, I believe.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, I stood on the range with Sandy Lyle, and he's hitting his hickories at a PGA Champions Tour event, and guys like Bernhard Langer come over and they hit balls, and Jerry Pate and Crenshaw, all these guys. They're fast. People are fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And I have a tournament as well, Aaron, and it's in Birmingham, but it's typically 85, 80, you know, it's warm.
Yeah.
And I just say no baseball caps, long pants or knickers, and that's pretty much it. I mean, when it's hot and humid, it's really tough to play, you know, and other type of attire, you know.
Sure.
It really is. I think that...
Nice.
Huh?
No, go ahead, Pat.
I just said, you know, so we have such big extreme temperature changes here in the United States, you know. Right. And so, like, I go play, for instance, in Gerhardt, Oregon, I might be wearing, you know, a sweater, you know, and my knickers and cap, you know. I mean, it's just whatever it is that, I mean, the game is about playing with hickory golf clubs and kind of that era, the tradition of that era. And I think that you just have to dress accordingly. I've had a heat stroke playing with my hickories. It's not fun.
Well, we want to avoid that at all costs.
Yes, absolutely.
I think one of the things that you brought up is, do you have to wear the traditional garb? And, you know, as Tad and Mike have said, you find a whole variation. Usually you'll always find a flat cap, or at that time, not everybody will wear a shirt and tie or a shirt and bow tie, but you'll find either long pants or the plus fours. And it's kind of, you know, I can't say that it's improved my score. Tad will laugh probably at that one, it might, but the one thing about it is, you know, you're playing traditionally the game, and I think that's a big part about it. And, you know, a few years ago, I decided when we started doing tartan, I was going to get a tartan that I would use for my company and run every so often. You know, if someone bought a big order, have a bow tie and a flat cap for them. Yeah. And I chose this particular tartan. And it's interesting, when I finally looked down what the name of the tartan was, it's the Scottish Chinese tartan that they had made years ago for association. The Scottish people tend to want to have relationships with everybody in the world, and they came up with this tartan. I'm going, wait a minute, I'm trying to prove American manufacturing, American quality, and here I have a Scottish Chinese tartan. But it's, I think that a lot of people, a lot of guys that play, they really enjoy being out there with it. I have, you know, you talk about young people, as Mike and Tad both brought up. A young lady that works for me played on the Bellarmine University women's golf team here out of Louisville. And Bailey, she started interning for me 2 years ago. And one day I said, here, why don't you take my clubs and play with them? And she goes, oh, this is kind of cool. But I said, don't do anything while you're still playing on the college team. I don't want to mess up your game. And as soon as she graduated, she has a set of Tad's clubs, and she's hooked on them. Her father's using another set of my other clubs, and young people tend to like it. My granddaughter who's in high school. She's playing with some old clubs I have. And I think the more young people, and young is to me being 70 years old, anybody under 50 is young, that they get exposed to it, I think they'll get hooked because of the tradition, the sound. It's amazing. You know, it sounds pure. It doesn't sound like an empty Coors beer can. And it's, yeah, and kind of the dress. I mean, it's like you bring up, you go into a restaurant, you're not going to go to Burn's Steakhouse in blue jeans and a T-shirt that says some bait shop from the beach. You're going to be dressed up. And I think that falls through with golf where, yeah, there's a general acceptance of apparel through golf. Again, you don't show up to play at a golf course with a bait shop shirt. You're going to show up and, you know, look the game you're playing.
Yeah. Jim, I see you've got a beautiful persimmon wood there. When you hit your hickories, are you dressing up at all, or are you just wearing today's golf shirt and shorts?
This is a Tad Moore wood that I won down at the Southern Four Ball one year.
Very nice.
I don't know how I did that. I had a good partner. He carried me. Here in Michigan, the climate is going to be a little different than it is what Mike and Tad and Will are experiencing.
Yeah.
Early part of the year, we're in sweaters and windbreakers, but yeah, it's easy to throw a tie on under all that. We'll often show up at our events wearing +4s, often a tie. We've got a Michigan Hickory Tour tie, right, that we developed.
Very nice.
Fun to wear, but casual rounds where you're just getting out with the guys, whatever. No worries, whatever you're going to wear, shorts, whatnot.
Yeah.
Polo shirt, whatever. But like the guys said, you're going to go to maybe a little more of a tournament, or you're visiting a club for the first time. You want to dress nice. You want to honor the game. You want to show the club, hey, we respect being here, and thank you for that. So that all goes hand in hand with sort of honoring the game with the period that this all came from. But, we play relaxed rounds too. There's no need to just, work it all up for every single round. Go on.
Right. Yeah. Start to lose a little bit of the luster if you do it every time.
It's funny too. Some guys go to an extreme. Like we have a fellow in Virginia by the name of Deal Hudson. I mean, he must have a wardrobe that's probably in the thousands of dollars. Tad, how he's impeccable.
Oh my God!
Smokes a pipe. He's incredible. It has these unbelievable hats. It's great to see though. He's so into.
Yeah,
all we're talking about is tartans, right?
Yeah.
I won a little tournament up here called the McNabb Cup. Here's a McNabb tartan. Right? McNabb tartan.
Talking about the dress, I remember, I think, Tad, you were at the Wisconsin Hickory Open about 4 years ago that they had at Whistling Straits. And you go up there, it was towards the end of May. And we went up there, and everybody's, growing up, my high school years in Northern Illinois, the end of May, you expect it to be kind of nice. And I remember going up there, and I basically was taking clothing for the end of April because of being as far north as it was in Wisconsin. And oh my gosh, I think we teed off on Thursday when we played the Irish. It was kind of nice. It was in the 50s. Then the next day we played Whistling Straits, and I think we teed off, and it was 36 and falling with snow as we came in. And then the next day we were going over to play Lawsonia in Green Lake, Wisconsin. And I think we teed off at 32 degrees. And who would think of that in late May? But you go to play, and you make sure, I've learned, you make sure you have extra clothing when you're going north of the Ohio River.
Sure. Yeah. You guys mentioned, exposing Hickory golf to the younger generations. One of our thoughts is we have a couple of trackmen at the FSGA, and we let our Florida Junior Tour players go through what's called the combine, where you hit a number of shots from different yardages, and we kind of keep that information in their profile if college coaches want to look at it. But one of the things we're going to do after they go through the combine with their today's sets, we're going to encourage them to go through the combine with Hickory clubs as well. So just something neat. We're going to try to get, like you said, some exposure to the younger generation. I grew up hitting persimmon head woods, but certainly not Hickory shafted clubs. So anyone behind me certainly hasn't had the experience to try persimmon woods and combine that with a Hickory shaft. We'll see how these young studs do with a Hickory club in their hand.
Well, I've got a young guy here in Selma that he's going to be going to Alabama. I think he has the ultimate capability to make the tour, and he can hit my Hickory driver about 285.
Wow!
And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And it just no fear, and stands up and hits the irons and asks me, "Why do these go straight?" I said, "Well, it'll take a long conversation for me to explain to you why that happens." So
right.
Which is pretty true. I mean, they do go pretty darn straight. So it's interesting. So
yeah, Tad, when you and I first started talking, you talked about, I think that you were kind of instrumental with the Pinehurst Resort and their Hickory Club program for rental sets. The opportunity now for people to go around Pinehurst, and I know someone said it, maybe Will was talking about, when you want to play these golf courses or want to play Hickories, you want to play some of the older traditional style golf course. What was it like to work with Pinehurst and kind of kick off their Hickory rental program?
Well, Aaron, I had experience in the fact that the gentleman from the Fairmont Hotels that owned Banff contacted me, and we did around 20 sets, both right-handed and left-handed for Banff. So it gave me an idea how to approach and work with Pinehurst. And I won't say it was an easy thing to deal with them,
right?
Because of the corporate and the levels of people of responsibility. My friend Ben Bridgers, who runs the golf operation there, he was all for it, but he had to convince everybody else that this would be good. And they have at least one Hickory event there every year. So, I thought that it wouldn't be that difficult to convince them of what we were trying to do. So what we chose was a number of sets, right-handed and left-handed. And I immediately found out that in the afternoons, when the shifts change in the pro shop, the young assistant pros were grabbing a set of Hickories that weren't in use and going over to number 3 and playing Hickory golf. So it was getting promoted, and I was promoting it on all my social media accounts. If you're going there, ask to play with them, play the cradle with them to start with, or go play with them. But they found immediately that people would, of all ages, love to play with them. And like a company like Titleist was having a meeting there, and they went and played with them on number 3, and they came in and said, "We want to go play 2 with them." So it's infectious, you play it and you want to play more and all that sort of thing. So it's pretty interesting. I've learned a lot up there. We've had basically no breakage. Everything's been really good. So I think it'll help promote it. And North Carolina, I've already been invited through a friend to go there to Pine Needles and talk with the guys from North Carolina, the Golf Association there. So I was just waiting for us to get going, have an event and everything, and then go and talk with them. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a
great
opportunity to get some more exposure for it. Well, I'm gonna switch topics with you just for a little bit. It's often a good round of golf can be followed up with a nice beverage, and with you, I want to talk about bourbon, which is something that I'm interested in, and I know a lot of our listeners will be interested in. Can you talk about what it's like having your plant there right in Louisville, Kentucky, that some of the finest bourbons in the world, and have you had a chance to work with any of the distillers over the years?
Well, geez, if I knew this question was coming, I'd make sure I had a bottle in my hand. Bailey, bring me a bottle of, bring me Baker's bottle.
There we go.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
we're fortunate.
What's Jim got?
I'm sorry.
You're going to think we're all drunks.
Jim got up there?
It's feathery. Bill Reed showed me about this. It's just a Scottish blend.
Okay.
Well, here's only 107 proof. I mean, I do have some a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
This is Baker Bean, one of the Bean family members. Baker's kind of a character where no matter when I go to see him, whether it's if I go down to the distillery, which we make a lot of coasters, market bags, duffel bags. They even have a golf bag in there that they sell from time to time. That I'll stop and say hi to Baker at his house, and it could be 10 o'clock in the morning. He says, "Let's have a sip." And I'm going, it's a little early for me, but yeah, it's really we have some great distilleries in Kentucky. It's the Bourbon Trail, and we're pretty blessed that we do quite a bit with them and the Bourbon Distillers Association. They have for anyone who likes bourbon, this year they won't have it. They have kind of a bourbon boot camp every year where for those who really want to know about bourbon, it's basically about a 4-day boot camp, and you do everything about learning about the distilling process of how the mash mixes go together, the mash bills, and they take you to multiple distilleries from Jim Beam to Maker's Mark to Heaven Hill over to Wild Turkey, Buffalo Trace, and it's really kind of a interesting understanding of how they get their taste. There's a lady here in Louisville. Her name is Peggy No, and Peggy is of the Bean family as well, but she's one of these master taste people that teach you about what flavor will make you want to eat a certain food.
Right.
And I took her class a couple of years ago, and it's about a 4-hour class, and I suggest you eat heartily before you go, because if you don't, you're not going to make it through the first half hour with all the tasting, because she'll bring different cheeses with different shots of bourbon. She'll bring candy and bring different shots of bourbon and say, this will make you want to eat this candy. And then they'll go through the meat palette. They'll go through crackers and fish and all sorts of different palettes, and how they mix the bourbon so that you want to have, like Maker's 46 is great for desserts. That's what it's designed for.
Yeah.
And it just goes on. And I know you've been up to visit some of those places of enjoyment. And actually this week, they're finally opening the distilleries again for visitors, but they're trying to figure out the best way to do it. But a little side note is when we came across all this epidemic stuff, most of the bourbon distilleries also created a new product for themselves. They were making hand sanitizer. They were taking the bourbon, pre-bourbon as it was coming out, and turning it into hand sanitizer. So every one of them has their own hand sanitizer.
Well,
but they put "do not drink" on it.
Yeah, myself and Jim Demick, who I think most of you guys have talked to, went up a few years ago with our wives and did the Bourbon Trail up there. And yes, would love to get back there at some point in the near future.
Come on.
Well, my role the FSGA for the first 19 years was I was director of gin services. So I still have access to everyone's handicap index information all around the country, and I was able to look a few of you guys up and see what. And my next question would be, if first of all, have the four of you had a chance to play together?
Yeah.
Yep, we've all played together.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I might know the answer to this question too. In a match against the four of you, who's winning?
Mike.
Right.
Mike.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not if you give Jim his strokes.
All right.
That's true.
So that leads me to my
I
next
beat every one
question.
of them.
Even with my handicap, I can't beat Mike.
So my next question becomes: do you guys carry a traditional USGA gin or another provider handicap, or are you posting just Hickory scores to a separate account, and that's what you guys would play with it if you had to give each other strokes?
Well, I'm just using the SOHG handicap service.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
playing almost exclusively with Hickory Golf Clubs, so it just makes sense to keep it there. I do have to keep a gin account with the Michigan Golf Association, or the Golf Association of Michigan. But again, that's also with Hickory clubs.
Okay. All right. So you guys are all keeping your handicap kind of based on just your Hickory rounds for this?
I am.
Yeah.
I am too.
Aaron, the problem, we, back in the early days, as you know, the founding group of the Society, Hickory Golfers, I was the president for a number of years. And one of the things that we tried to get was the USGA to allow someone to post a Hickory handicap. And they were strongly not going to allow it to happen. You know, you can't have two handicaps.
Yeah.
So we had a gentleman that created a handicap system for the Society of Hickory Golfers.
Uh-huh.
So we all the Hickory guys, for the most part, do post in the Society of Hickory Golfers, and we encourage that.
Right.
However, I still keep trying to get Jen to say, yes, you could have Aaron Hickory and post under Aaron Hickory your Hickory scores, because they're going to make money. Somebody's going to make money on this whole deal. Why not allow it? You know, I mean, it doesn't make sense that it can't be done. I don't know whether people would now with the current handicapping system in gin. It's really changed things so tremendously. It's almost better to play Stableford with the new system than it is to play your old way of betting and gaming with the old system. So,
Yeah.
But I would love that to happen, and I don't know. I mean, I've some topics, and I've great friends with them, and I've worked with them for years, and the technical side, the equipment side, and all that, and the library and the museum. I've done a lot of work there.
Uh-huh.
I supply their putters and stuff to them there for their putting experience.
Okay.
But I can't seem to get them to do this for us. You know, it would be so simple. And guys would like it. People would like it. Women would like it. Everybody would, you know. So,
Yeah.
but
I agree. I've done a lot of work with the USGA over the years, being involved with the gin handicap system for, like I said, 19 years prior to kind of getting into these new FSGA initiatives. And if it happens, I will be as shocked as you.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But anyway, Jim, talk to me about when you guys are running competitions at the national level. Are you playing stroke play, quota, match play, a little bit of all of the above? What are you guys running for your competitions?
The SOHG sponsors only one tournament, and that is the USGA Open. That's our main tournament that we're involved in. All other tournaments including the Mid-Pines Hickory Open, the Belvedere Hickory Open, Earhart, and on and on and on and on. The tournament directors are free to run their tournaments in the way they want.
Okay.
I have a little one up here, and I generally use a Stableford.
Stableford, okay.
Most of the other ones, the larger ones, will use some guidance from the SOHG on tournament play.
Right.
For instance, the same divisions with open, senior, super senior, 70 and above, ladies.
Yeah.
And most will follow that sort of format. And most will use an open division and a net.
Okay.
So they'll have competition in both.
Right.
And generally, SOHG, the U.S. Hickory Open, follows that format pretty closely. Most other tournaments go the same way. But again, if you're running a tournament there in Florida and you think, well, maybe we're going to try it this way, or we want to mandate that we just use a replica Hickory golf ball made by Dave Brown and the McIntyre Golf Company,
yep.
Do so, right? Whereas at the U.S. Hickory Open, you use the ball that you want to use. The ball is not mandated. So within those constraints, that might be not be the right word, but tournament organizers and hosts, please enjoy Hickory golf and run your tournament in the way you want, and the way your players will enjoy.
Okay, great.
Jim, I have a 4-ball. My tournament in Birmingham is a 4-ball.
4-ball is a different format too, sure.
Yeah. And it's been, I think it's the third oldest tournament that we play. So, and it's well liked, and I have both gross and net in the 4-ball.
And
so
that's one of the more enjoyable tournaments out there. Guys look forward to that every year.
Yeah.
And the ladies who come and play.
Mike, is it the same for you with the Florida Hickory golfers? Are you running, play whatever ball you feel comfortable with? Are you mandating the replica ball? What are you guys doing for our golfers here in Florida?
Yeah, well, in our normal monthly events, we allow any ball. The only one I require the reproduction ball in is the U.S. Pro and Amateur tournament at Temple Terrace in February.
Okay.
But other than that, we've decided that, if you want to use whatever ball you want, go ahead. Most of us use the softer balls like the Wilson Duo and things like that. But, we don't mandate a specific ball for our normal events.
Okay. What about rules of golf? Are you guys using today's modern rules? Are you using a version from the 1920s or 30s? What are you using to conduct your competitions?
Well, in Florida, we've gone to the modern rules where you could leave the pin in and all that stuff. So, we've kind of gone along with what the USGA is doing these days.
Okay.
You'll pretty much find that all across the country, Alan. I think the difference is that we're allowed to play with non-conforming clubs, right? Because they all are.
Right. Yeah. True.
Yeah, and there's no limit on clubs.
Nope.
You want to put 25 in your bag, go at it.
Yeah. I've heard that. I think maybe Tad, you told me that early on in the conversations, which is interesting because from what I've read online, a traditional play set is 6, 7, 8 clubs, but you're telling me that people will carry up to 20, 25 clubs in a bag?
Yeah. How much does Randy carry in his bag, Mike?
Oh God, I don't recall.
This is really what we're talking about.
Well, the reason they went to 14. The reason they went to 14 clubs,
yeah,
was because I think it was Lawson Little showed up at a tournament with 38 clubs in his bag and said, "Hey, wait a minute, 38 clubs." Bobby Jones used to play 25.
You had to have a pretty sturdy caddy back then, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think Jones often carried around 16 clubs, but that was because when he was just playing, he typically had 2 spoons, I know, and he had a run-up club. He had other clubs in there and that sort of thing. But I think that they were getting paid for whatever clubs were in their bag. Not much, but they got paid a little bit. So that was bringing that on, and so I think if you go to one of our bigger tournaments like Mid-Pines or the U.S. Hickory Open, and you sit there and watch the guys check the clubs, and as they go through, I bet everybody's got 13 clubs in the bag. I mean, it just, because most of the time you're riding, so
Right.
It doesn't matter. But the younger guys that walk might be around 10 clubs, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing a fast kind of scooty course like Mid-Pines can be, that's probably plenty,
Yeah.
because you can hit a ball that'll roll 30, 40 yards, So.
Will, if someone wants to carry that many clubs, I don't think they're ordering a pencil style golf bag from you. Are they going with something a little bit bigger?
Yeah, the pencil bag is really good for, I say 8 clubs, no more than that, because of the balance point on it. But we make and carry up the traditional look into an 8-inch bag. Whether you want to do, basically you had a Sunday bag that was similar back there, but we have even a bag that we replicate off of the 50s now. So we do offer bags up to 8 inches, but that's going to be my limit as far as what we do. It's after that, you might as well buy a billboard from somebody.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things that I love about the game of golf and are the relationships that you build. The relationships I'm building, guys, are very important to me and to the FSGA. Would you mind talking about, like I said, Hickory seems to be such a tight knit group of people. And when you play golf with people, they often become friends or business partners. And often those relationships will go on for a number of years. Can you just, any one of you, feel free, as many as you want to, just talk about the relationships and how important they are and how we can help use those relationships that we build through this great game to expand and grow Hickory golf around the country, hopefully.
Aaron, let me start, okay?
Yeah.
So, like I said, in 1991, there was very few people playing, right? But we got more people playing. And then once I started being, let's say, more active in the travel and playing in events, as events started to grow.
Right.
So now I'm traveling with my golf business. I'm traveling basically all around. So what I found is that unlike a lot of other golf groups, that I found that the Hickory guys and women were very enjoyable. And I think it was a typical thing everybody would say was, well, sometimes we get people to come and play, but they're not happy people, and then pretty soon they're not playing anymore. But it seemed that wherever I went, whether it was Oregon, Washington, Florida, Michigan, Omaha, New Jersey, New York, wherever it was, you had people that were just coming out and having a good time, a little beverage afterwards, trading stories, becoming friends. It was what I remember as, I'm 79 now. So it was what I remember growing up is that, and I've said all along, golf is a social game. It's not an individual game. It's a social game.
Yeah.
And the Hickory groups, wherever I go today, that's very true. So I go to Mid-Pines every year. I help start that tournament. I see people from all over the country that I see maybe once a year. How you doing? Great. How's everything going? What's going on? And wherever I go, that's the way people are. And it's so if someone is a member in Florida and he plays at Mid-Pines, that's the kind of people he's going to meet. If he comes and plays in Birmingham, that's the kind of people he's going to meet. It's a very unique thing. It's a very social group of people now that probably is more than 3,000 people here in the United States. So it's a good sized group.
Right.
But that's my experience. And
I think Tad is really right on there because probably amongst the four, I'm the freshman of the group. I guess we can make Tad the senior of the group. That when you look at it, from my business, and I'm speaking up because it's a lot very similar to Tad. I've made friends all over the world. We have bags everywhere. You name it. I mean, we have bags in Saudi Arabia. We have them in Scandinavia, all over Europe. Switzerland is probably the largest customer I have, that country. But when you look at it, to Japan, to the Philippines, to Thailand, we ship bags all over the world. And a lot of the guys do play Hickory. That's the interesting thing about it. But you make friends, and they're always inviting you to come. And I'm sure a lot like Tad, the friendships that you make, if I wanted to wake up one morning and say, geez, I want to go play where? You go because you have a friend. Yeah. And the social aspect is what's really, really impressed me when I got involved with Hickory. And as Tad says, Mid-Pines is probably, outside of the U.S. Hickory Open, I think personally, Mid-Pines is probably the granddaddy of all the tournaments because of the ambiance of Pinehurst. But even more so Southern Pines when you're talking about Mid-Pines. I mean, that's my favorite course on earth. When you're walking down 9 or 18 at Mid-Pines, there's nothing any sweeter than that, unless you're playing to win the Masters, I guess. But the people that you meet, you might only see once or twice a year, but it seems like it was just last week you finished the last conversation, not a year before. Yeah. And the friendships, I'm very blessed because of the business, knowing so many people. But Mike's group in Florida, I love. I'm sorry I haven't been because of this pandemic thing. I haven't been to my house in Florida since February, and I miss playing with that group. They're just super guys. And another group I really love are the guys up in Wisconsin, and of course the North Carolina group, of which those are the three groups that I'll move around. And it's a great social and the friendships. If you need advice, you meet people of different professions. And if you ever need advice on something, you make a friendship, you can always ask advice. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's certainly been evident in my relationship with the four of you guys. And I imagine the rest of the community is just the same. I've got to somehow get myself an invitation to some of these events before too long.
It's something that, Aaron, that we see across the country. There are several strong regional groups all across this country and internationally. And the golf clubs are the common theme. The experience of playing those things is a common theme. Uh-huh. Go to a modern golf tournament, and I don't think you're going to see guys gathering around everybody else's bag to see what's in there. What do you got? Are you collecting these? Yeah. Yeah. The conversation goes on and on and on. These clubs are so cool. I mean, the modern golf clubs that Tad and Louisville Golf and some others make, they're beautiful, so well balanced. Yep. But part of the fun of collecting and playing the originals is all those great plate marks on the back of the clubs that tell you so much about where that club has been, who made it, who owned it, what golf pro put it on a shaft and made it for his member of his club. Each one of these clubs tells that story. So, I mean, you can get into this as deep as you want. Guys love working on the clubs. They love sharing their experiences with the clubs. And whether it's in Michigan, Florida, Alabama, Wisconsin, and up in the Washington group. I mean, the guys, you'll find guys just love getting together and sharing this thing and getting out and playing them. Yeah. That was part of the mission statement of the SOHC in the beginning, was to share and to learn the characteristics of wood-shafted golf clubs. And it's been great fun. You get out on a range, you're hitting these things. I was playing a range just the other day, practicing, there was this young guy next to me, and you know who these guys are, Aaron and Mike. You've seen him, and Tad, you've seen him too. The sound that this guy makes when it's hitting the ball out is just one of extreme violence. It's just amazing. There's a bang and a crack, and the ball just goes out into the distance. Now, you go to a range, you watch Mike play or Randy Jensen or somebody else practicing balls. You'll still see that great tempo and timing, but there's not this giant crash and bang of some violence going on. It's more of a studied control with the club.
So whoosh.
It's just a little different. Yeah. And it's just different to watch these guys hit these things and know that is just a sweet sound.
Yeah.
And when you're hitting one as an amateur like me, a high handicapper, and I managed to get off a good one, and it comes off the club face feeling like I just hit a little wad of butter, it just feels so sweet. And you're like, oh, I got to come back and try that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Tad, I think you mentioned that there's roughly 3,000 maybe Hickory golfers across the U.S. Mike, I know you've had a chance to play internationally and captain, some teams from the U.S. against international golfers. How's the health of Hickory golf across the pond?
Oh, it's very good. Sweden is probably the most active country they had. I played in the Swedish Hickory Open about, must have been 5, 6, 7 years ago. They had 140-something entrants. They had to turn people away.
Wow.
So, and then every year at the World Hickory Open, they get a big crowd from all over Europe. There's tournaments all over Europe. And it's great golf courses to play in Europe. They were all built, 400 years ago. So you're
with that style in mind.
That were designed with these clubs when they were, in vogue.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Tad just mentioned the whoosh, but you're going to hit a steel shafted club, or you're going to hit a hickory shafted club. Mike, I think you talked about this early on. When you hit a good shot with a hickory shafted club, it's because you put a swing on a golf ball.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But, Tad, would you agree with this? I think that the hickory clubs and the clubs of the 40s and 50s aren't that much difference in feel with the steel shafts. Would you agree with that?
Well, the early steel wood shafts, I think, performed and felt very similar to hickory, but better players and players as a rule didn't like the iron shafts for some reason. And the better players, and even McGregor, McGregor drove a hickory dowel up in the tip of the early steel shafts, and they called it, I think, a neutralizer. They were trying to improve the feel of the iron shafts. So, yes, I think that in the case of woods, starting in the mid-20s with steel, they had a very similar feel and performance. A little later for the irons, but it took a while. But yes, there's a thing about hickory in particular in irons that is just phenomenal. And I've done a lot of testing at Cool Clubs out in Scottsdale and trying to determine all the why this and why that. And it's very difficult, but we've come to certain conclusions, and that how we can make our shafts to be the best. So I think you're right, Mike. I mean, just talking about whoosh, the sound of a hickory golf club, whoosh, I mean, your swing is so smooth and timing, but there's still a whoosh, compared to Randy, who is very violent, and there's a bigger whoosh, but it's still a whoosh. It's not a tin can or a beer can sound, and all the other stuff of today's clubs, It's so different. Aaron, have you ever played with Mike?
No, I haven't had a chance yet. Once we're back to playing golf at the FSGA, would love to join Mike and the Florida Hickory Golfers at one of his upcoming events.
Okay.
I haven't been this excited about something in a long time. So
Yeah.
ahead with your question.
Well, when you see him hit the golf ball, you will think it's a practice swing.
Well, I believe it.
It's the
Mike has
smoothest
such a
golf
sweet.
swing.
Mike just has such perfect form, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? I mean, it reminds me of when I made the bags for Mr. Hogan. He had us put. There was an artist that made a rendering of Hogan's swing, and it was called the Ravelli. And every time I see Mike swing a club, I think of the Ravelli. And it's just such a sweet swing. And
well, I have to thank Gene Littler for that. He was kind of the guy I modeled myself after.
We did a good job. I mean, it's just Mike's form and the way the ball flies. I dream when I grow up I can play half as good as Mike.
Yeah.
So if there's a 4-ball coming up, I should try to get Mike as my partner, is what I'm taking from all this. Okay.
That wouldn't hurt your chances.
Yeah. You better pay him well.
I can pay to play. That's no problem.
I got to
Hey,
say,
Aaron.
I've
Aaron,
had some lessons in my lifetime, but Mike Stevens gave me the best lesson I ever had. It was just one word: relax.
Oh, I thought it was going to be quit, Jim.
Well, that's more than one word. It's take 2 weeks off and then quit.
You told me, Mike.
Hey, Aaron, let me comment again about the state of the golf game.
Yes.
The game of Hickory.
Yep.
So I supplied worldwide.
Okay.
So the game in Japan is growing. They actually have a national championship on Roku Mountain, the old golf course. It's the oldest golf course in Japan, I think, built around 1905 in Kobe. Okay. And they actually have another championship more up towards Tokyo. And they have monthly events. And it's amazing. And they've got quite a good group going. It was started by a gentleman who was from Scotland. Sweden, of course, is big. I supply to Sweden. I supply to makers in St. Andrews in Scotland, and to people in the UK, Switzerland, Germany, Czechoslovakia. Australia is big. So it's well, and it's growing worldwide. Right. And like this year, I think at the U.S. Hickory Open, there might be, I know there's people coming from Switzerland, maybe from Japan. So, and you could have somebody else coming. So, yeah, it's well and it's growing. So, yeah. So one of the big things I do for people here, like in Michigan, there's a group in Wyandotte, and they have a place where they can fix their clubs and that. And I supply shafts to them and grips. And so that's what I do mainly here in the United States. I supply the supplies to do the repairs and work on clubs. Yeah. And helping how to do it, Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's great to hear that there's growth. One of my last questions I had for you guys is newcomers to Hickory as myself and some of these other hopefully state golf associations that want to get involved. What's our best course of action to help grow the game? Even larger than it is currently.
Well, I think you're on the right track. Yeah. I mean, I have clubs available for people to try, you know, and I think you will have some guys that will come and play, and guys like Mike and Bill Geisler and other guys there in Florida, they're willing to help people. How you do this, what you should do, and that. I mean, my basic thing is really don't try to change your swing. Your swing is your swing. Right. The weight of the golf club will slow your tempo a little bit anyway. So, but really don't try to change your swing so much. It'll the club heads, the overall weight of the clubs are just heavier to start with, you know, and that'll slow your tempo. You'll get feel really quick, and it'll help your regular game, I think. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up, Tad, because one of the first questions I had when I was talking to you about this is I'm 6'2", a little bit bigger guy, and my traditional steel shafted clubs are a half inch over. And you recommended just going standard length shafts. I think you said that you had one guy that was maybe an ex-football player, 6'5", and you went a little bit longer for him. But you're saying for the normal average golfer, just stick with average shaft lengths that we have today?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, unless somebody just when they're talking to me and they just want to do it. I mean, one thing about it, it's easy to cut them off. I mean, you can put it back on,
right?
Obviously, but it's easy to cut them off if they just feel too long, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Keep some practice clubs at the pro shop for each club, right?
Yeah, that's
trials.
Yeah.
Share on the range, whatever.
I think that's a good point. I think once, you know, now that you're getting back in gear with the FSGA events, what I'd like to do is maybe come out with one of them on the range, have some clubs on the range so that we can, you know, do a demonstration for it. If you can get them in people's hands to use, then, you know, that's when you start getting the interest. And gee, I'd like to try this.
Yeah, no, Mike, you bring up a good point. I certainly wanted to talk to you about getting you out at maybe a handful of them. You know, the one that we're going to do, hopefully Hickory's only at Bradenton Country Club, you know, to have and talk to people. But our other one days that have the Hickory component, to have someone like you as an ambassador for Hickory Golf, and not only an ambassador, but a darn good playing ambassador is what it sounds like. So people are going to get a chance to see, you know, these things will perform just like your clubs do today if you put a good swing on them.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you plan to have the first event?
Well, I think the first one's at it was in Lakeland, right? At Lone Palm.
Lone Palm, yes.
Yeah. We got some nice courses lined up. Lone Palm, we got Country Club of Winter Haven, Bradenton Country Club.
Yep.
Yeah. The first one, I'd love to come down for the first one.
That's August something. I forgot the date.
August 22nd. I'll send you the link, Tad.
Okay.
I wanted to say we've got a golf club that's that's mounting a Hickory golf experience for their members. It's been found that just going out on a scramble takes a lot of the pressure off. It makes it more enjoyable for that type of player.
Yeah, I know a lot of clubs for like their centennial anniversary will bring in Hickory clubs and kind of the old style cars. Palmacia and Tampa did that for their 100th anniversary a few years ago. So those are all great suggestions, and we're open to any thoughts that you guys have as we move forward. The last question I have, and I'll be shocked if I don't already know the answer. Hickories or steel?
Hickory.
I haven't played steel clubs in 20 years.
And how long?
What's that?
Did you say 20 years?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Same here. I
all I play with is Hickory now.
Moderns in 28 years or more.
That's fascinating. That's awesome. Very good.
I haven't touched my modern clubs in 10, so
okay.
It's the way to go.
Well,
Dad, how about you?
I'm a little different. I'm involved still in the modern game, so I will play combinations. And my golf course is an old golf course. In fact, next year will be 100 years old. So, and I actually make brand new spanking persimmon steel shafted woods using the old Turning Masters and everything. So, but yeah, mainly I've always got Hickory clubs in my bag, but because my guys don't like to get beat with me playing Hickories, I typically will have a modern driver or something, you know.
Right,
my Hickory goes almost as far. So at my age, the speed is about the same. So because my modern driver is only 44 inch long. So.
Okay.
I think I might add to this is Bailey, who works for me in the Kentucky Women's Open in August. And I think she's going to be putting with her Hickory putter, but she'll be playing her moderns, but using her Hickory putter.
Very good. Very good. Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough, not only for today, but like I said, for the guidance that you've given myself and the FSGA as we try to launch this program. I know we're excited about it. I hope we can generate some excitement around the country. Don't be surprised if you keep getting emails and phone calls from me, as I need your expertise over the next few months. But Tad, if you want to come down to our event in Florida, we'd love to have you. Will, when you're able to travel, I know we've talked about getting to get together for lunch in Florida.
Yeah.
Jim, if you ever make your way back down to St. Pete, our office is right in Tampa. And like I said, I can't thank you guys enough for what you've done for us and the FSGA, and hopefully we can build some momentum in the golf game here in the U.S.
Good luck.
Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Very good.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
I know.
All right, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.